welcome back to Typecast Heroes, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Jessie Miller, and today we are talking about the extroverted feeling as it presents in the child function. So the child function as it presents in the ENTP and the ESTP is extroverted feeling. So Carl Jung talked about how there is an ideal average for behaviors. So please keep that in mind as we watch our video, because in the What is Your Cognitive Stack, we were called out for the way that we presented the child function. And so we're going to be going into a little bit more of the nuance. That was an overview of how that function can present. I do want to be super clear on that. But this is going to be more nuanced in the behavior. It's going to talk about specific things. And again, if you are a little further in your type development, if you're a little older, or if you're a little younger, if you're a teenager, or if you're in your early 20s, some of these functions may no longer be, or some of these tendencies may no longer be present in you, or have not yet presented themselves. So please keep all of that in mind as you watch this. This is ideal type development. Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
So one thing that we say in the beginning of every video is that anyone can be anything. And we are not all of a sudden disagreeing with that statement. But in these particular videos where we are relating the function and the placement in the stack, we want to make it very clear as we can, that there is consistencies across the board when you're looking at an ESTP and an ENTP who use FE, child function. And that's what we really want to focus on. And so we're really looking at the motivation behind the behavior. So yes, well, anyone can be and do anything. Like, you have all that power inside of yourself to do so. We are going to be honing in today on what that specifically looks like for the ESTP and ENTP in regards to extroverted feeling.
So the child function, again, this is the one that we tend to be a little bit more defensive about, because what our ego does is it defends that third function because it's the same attitude as the main user. So for ENTPs, ESTPs, they lead with extroverted intuition, or extroverted sensing. So they're extroverted tendencies. And extroverted feeling is also extroverted. So they like to stay in that function. However, it is undeveloped or underdeveloped, and it can be really vulnerable. It can also be subject to volatile behaviors, because just like a child, it is childlike in its actions, or it tends to be. So that means it can be a little naive, like not understanding how certain things work with extroverted feeling. Or it can be a little bit boundary pushing, like it wants to see what it can get away with. Or it can be playful in the right environment, and it can even be a little bit bratty.
Our favorite word.
It is our favorite word. However, we did receive criticism for it, so I am trying to avoid saying it, because it was a valid comment that it can be a whole lot more, and we did focus a lot on that negative behavior in the cognitive stack, which is why we're making all of these videos about how they present. So we have, I'm mentioning them, but we've got tons of stuff on our channel about ESTPs, ENTPs, extroverted feeling, the child function. All this stuff is over there if you want to go and look at it. So today is just extroverted feeling as it presents as the child. So extroverted feeling as it is in a vacuum, if you could take out the cognitive functions and just stick them in like a microscope and just look at the cognitive function without anything else, which is impossible, but just for differentiation purposes, it would be concerned with the feelings and values and emotions and the shared experience of all of the people around them. So when you have a extroverted feeling function as a child in the child position, that means that it is a little bit naive with how it wants to maintain harmony, or is interested in the shared experience. Oftentimes, ENTPs and ESTPs can kind of indulge in this function in the sense that they end up being performers. Like, they like to entertain the people around them. They like to act a certain way and have a good time with the people around them. They just want everybody to have fun. Or they can be sort of playful in the sense that they just want to talk to and understand all of the people around them, and they don't realize sometimes they're crossing certain social rules. They're asking too much. They're pushing too hard to relate, because they're just kind of being playful with this. So that is a more playful and innocent version of the extroverted feeling child. They can also be a little bit of that boundary pushing that we talked about, where they can be like, they can take a joke a little too far, or they can have a little bit of volatility when it comes to their own emotions because their range is a little less than it would be for a extroverted feeler, dominant, or auxiliary user. And so they have a tendency to want to stick within a certain range of emotions that they understand really well. And sometimes that can be like explosive anger can happen for an ESTP or an ENTP, or explosive sadness, because their range or understanding of all of the nuance may not be there for them because it is a child function. And so when they are engaging in emotions, they are pulling from the emotions from the people around them. And so they say, I feel angry. That is anger. I'm going to express it this way. But it is not well controlled at times because their understanding of emotions as it comes to like the crowdsource emotions, again, it's just not as sophisticated as it would be in an auxiliary or hero user. So in our video of the cognitive stack and in all of our type videos, we talk about how the child function is used as equally as the parent function, and that's true, but they are used in a different way, and that difference is important. They're kind of pushing and pulling on each other for attention. And for a particularly extroverted ENTP or ESTP, they can sometimes come across as too people-pleasy, or too interested in the values of others, or too into performing, and they don't do enough introspection. And so their child function can be exposed and they can get their feelings hurt. They can have a lot of misunderstandings. They can put themselves in positions where they are severely misunderstood. They can feel kind of like this pressure that they always have to perform, that I have an ENTP friend who mentions all the time that she feels like people expect her to perform a certain way. And I'm fairly certain my father, who's an ESTP, would say something similar. He's always the fun one because of that tendency to want to extrovert between those two functions. So with the child function, something that's important to remember is our tendency to project the child. And so ENTPs and ESTPs, because they acknowledge that the FE function is a child function in themselves, when they see it in somebody and it's their hero or auxiliary, they view it as childish outside themselves. So an ENTP or an ESTP will see someone who is using extroverted feeling as one of their top two functions, and they automatically are projecting that child onto that person. And so they're like, you are a child, I need to boss you around with my TI, and which is their introverted thinking process. And so it can make them not realize that extroverted feeling, when it is in a developed position or when the person has developed it, can have a lot of gifts to bring if they are currently limited by their own understanding of extroverted feeling and they think it's just childish and it doesn't deserve any
they can't see
respect.
They can't see it for anything but what they use it as.
And so that is something that a struggle or a limitation when it comes to the extroverted feeling child. However, having said that, society needs extroverted feeling as a healthy child position in the ENTPs and the ESTPs because ESTPs and ENTPs they're both extroverted perceivers, and so they're very much like attached to this moment, and extroverted sensors can see all of the reality, all of the data, and then the ENTPs can see all of the possibilities. And then they've got this really strong introverted thinking process, which is their very good logical structure, right? Both of these things tend to leave out the needs of others. So if they are just using those top two functions and they're coming up with really amazing things for the world or for society as a whole, ENTPs and ESTPs are a small number of society. So their ideas are incredibly valuable. However, they have to make sure that they've taken care of that extroverted feeling child because it's going to make sure that their ideas are really doing what's best for all of society.
So a little bit of personal growth regarding FE in the child position. People pleasing. That is, so I know there's a lot of things that FE child can look like, but specifically when you skip over your TI parent. But the biggest thing I think that I personally have seen is people pleasing, is almost skipping over that TI. And not only does this, going in more depth about like what that looks like and how that can really hurt you and your TI, but also it can be confusing then when you're trying to type yourself. It can look kind of like maybe you're a feeler when really you're not, or can be a little confusing just when you get your response, like your type back, and you're like, this doesn't sound like me at all, you know? So just be aware of that, first of all. But also, what would really suck is for you to be making all these decisions based on all the people around you and not checking in with your introverted thinking and saying, and like introspecting, which is so hard for so many extroverts, so I feel you there, but taking it in and saying, okay, does this align with what I think, with what is important to me? Does that align with that? And if it doesn't, and you're still making decisions based off of your FE only and not checking into your TI, you have a big possibility of looking backwards and saying, why did I make that decision? Why did I do this? And that goes for every type whenever they skip over their parent function, which can happen so often. It's called looping. It's a thing. But specifically with ESTPs and ENTPs, when you skip over that TI, it would just really suck to look back and wish you had done it differently. So always check into your introverted thinking. Always make sure that you introspect a little bit and that you're not just going with the values and the beliefs of the people around you, because that might not be true to your introverted process. That's really it, guys. This is just supposed to be a short and sweet video.
Because being human is hard.
Yes. It is. And hopefully this should make it just a little bit easier.
There you go. That's our tagline. Wow. So go ahead and like, subscribe, talk to us on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, the user,
and YouTube. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed. Like Jessie said, subscribe, like, comment, share, all the things. And if you don't know about our project and what TCH is all about, please go watch our very first video, Welcome to Typecast Heroes, to learn all about us and what TCH is.
We'll catch you on the next
Typecast Heroes.
She has not done that in a very long time.
Bye.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTITYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.